So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the coffee hour. And today we're going to be talking about preserving culture and identity. So before we get started with that, we just wanted to let you know, first of all, why we're here. We're really interested in helping our communities grow their capacity for excellence. So with that in mind, each coffee hour, we invite one of you guys, someone who has a best practice, to come and share with everyone else what they've done so that we can get inspired, get new ideas, and get also the how-to of, okay, well, how do we take this home and implement it to improve our own communities? So that's one of the aims. Another is to give you guys a chance to get to know each other. So our hope is that through the coffee hours, the sip and chat, what we're going to do here in a moment, you get a comfort level with, just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I really loved what you did with your thrift store, whatever. And could you tell me more about that? Or, get together and just share so that you can even more readily implement some of these best practices. So again, we wanted all of you to know that we're in this together, and the more we can collaborate and work with each other, the stronger we all get across Western North Carolina. So for those of you who haven't been here before, I'm going to quickly go over the agenda. And welcome, Betty. Glad you could come.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So let me share my screen so we can see the PowerPoint. Okay. Can everyone see that okay? Can you guys see that? Give me a thumbs up or something. Yes. Okay, great. All right. So this is how we roll. This is the welcome. We'll do a little sip and chat. That's when we break out into pairs and get to meet each other and chat for a few minutes. We'll have the presentation. We'll have time for a Q&A. And if there's time at the end, a little bit of discussion, and then we'll sort of check out and say, well, how did that go? So we're got to break up now into groups for the sip and chat. And so when you get into with your pair, you'll introduce yourself, and here are a couple of questions you can discuss. What are some of the key things that give your community an identity? And what about your culture would you like to preserve? And then just more like globally, what are you hoping to learn today? Okay. So that's what we'll be doing here in the sip and chat. Let me go ahead and put you into pairs, and you can get started.
And how long is it?
We're going to be then the breakout for 10 minutes. So hang on one second. You got 2, 4, 6, 7 people. Okay. All right, here we go. Have fun. I'll see you in 10 minutes. So you'll need to click join if you haven't already, Nancy and Alice. There you go.
Welcome. Okay, I'm in Union Mills, and that's about 50 or 60 miles below Asheville, in the Rutherford County area. Gotcha. And the uniqueness about our little community is that it's sort of out in the open. But one thing I can say, we're getting ready to get a new Dollar General that's being built right on the corner of 221 and Hudlow Road. And we're all excited about that because that'll be like the first business in our community. And also we have the learning center that is the old Alexander School here in the community, and also the Union Mills Community Club, which I am the president of it presently. And we've been working on, trying to keep the roads clean and well, we catered to the senior citizens before pandemic. We had luncheons every fourth Tuesday. But since the pandemic, we haven't been able to do that. Matter of fact, we've had to curtail meeting because we've had several members, that had COVID. So it's been sort of hectic trying to get together and do things, but we did meet in December, on December the 4th, and pack bags to carry to the nursing home and the sick and shut in. So we did get that accomplished this past year, but that's about the most that we have done. And now we're shut down until March or April, and see what happens during that time.
Wow. We've kind of been similar. We're more open this fall and up until now. I'm not sure what we'll do. We may have to fall back to what we did last spring. Something that helped us when we had business we really needed to conduct. I found a website called freeconferencecalls.com, and because on your cell phone you can do a conference call with a total of 3 people, but we needed more than that for voting on things. And so I signed up for that free conference call, and I'm not super techie, so I managed to do that successfully.
I'm not techie either, so I know what you're talking about.
Well, so we've had several meetings, quite a few meetings that were just on as a conference call. And that allowed us at least to take care of business, even though, like you said, we haven't been able to offer very much. A few little windows last summer, before Delta came onto the scene, we had one event, and we've done a couple of drive-through fish fries. Those were real successful, and there wasn't a lot of contact, but I must say there was contact amongst the workers. I err on the careful side with COVID, and so I was a little bit distressed, but as far as I know, nobody got sick.
I'm too, because I have this natural, you heard me cough. I've had this like about 10 years, and they still working trying to find out why I
Wow.
cough, and I just cough. And I'm afraid when I get out and I have to do it, that somebody think that I have COVID, but I've had this way before COVID came into being. And I was going to tell you too, is that we normally close down after December when the building is rented for Christmas family dinners and parties. We normally close the building down until March or April, and then we start back up. And the first thing that we normally had was a yard sale and breakfast in May. And then the next thing that we had, and of course the dinner started back up for the senior citizens. And in October, we'd always have the trunk or treat for the children, but we had it on the inside. So, if it was cool, because all of our people are in their 70s and 80s and 90s. So we had to be prepared for cold weather. and everything, but that, and then we had the Christmas gathering where we packed the bags and then carried them out and distributed them to the people on our list that was sick and shut in or in nursing homes. So that was the things that mostly that we did. And then rentals were the other things that happened, that people had birthday parties or wedding parties or whatever. That's where most of our income come from. And then what we get from Western North Carolina and the county. So that's helped us a lot this year.
We don't see the natives so much working to help the community center anymore. It's more people that have moved in retirement age, 50, 60 or older, which does make sense. It does, because the people that have moved in from somewhere, they are just, they want to get involved in their community because they're new. And they see that they can support and help. Whereas a lot of the natives have sort of, we've gone through this.
Tired. We've done ours.
Yeah, and the younger natives are working full time, and got kids, so it's hard for them to be able to put time in.
Mhm.
Seems like we have a lot of similar situations with our school / community center.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a hard line there, how to continuously keep the younger people involved. And I know when I was growing up, now my mother was very involved in volunteering. She strongly believed that. And so that's just, the way we were raised. So, and I've raised my children that way. But one lives in Atlanta and one is a police officer. So it's difficult, for them to do. But now my youngest grandson, he says, we have to do this. This is the way it is. And he's 6. He is so funny.
That's funny. That is funny. One thing we were considering doing at once we get past COVID, is to have sort of a history and heritage day at the community center, because on 2/3 of our renovated building, we have a central hallway, or like a school building, a long rectangular building with classrooms on either side and a long hallway. And over the past 15 or 20 years, families and churches and classes that graduated there have put up picture boards that tell their story of their family or a graduating class, who won the local basketball, whatever, church and cemetery type thing. So we were thinking about having a get together where everyone could stand in front of their wall and educate each other. And so the natives could actually get involved and help to educate the transplants.
Exactly.
So we're kind of waiting for COVID. Maybe in the spring or summer, maybe we will do that. We wanted to do it in the winter, but no,
too tight, too warm. Yeah.
Yes.
So you are now in the main
Hey,
session.
everybody.
All right.
Hopefully you had a good chance to get to know somebody you hadn't had a chance to talk to before, or deepen a connection with someone you've already talked to. In either case, if there's anything that you gleaned from your conversation that you think everyone in the community might like to know, feel free to drop that into the chat. I was sort of popping in and out of different rooms, and one of the things I heard, and Ruth, hopefully you don't mind my sharing this, Ruth shared that she had logged on to free conference call to get
Free conference calls, I think. I think it's
so
a
if you
plural.
Google free conference call, there is a thing you can use that will enable you to have meetings via conference call for free. So that's a great resource for all of you to know about. Anyway,
is it a video conference or just phone?
It's a phone conference.
Okay.
There may be video, I don't know. We just did phone.
Yes, and a lot of times video might cost you a little extra, but it does get you on the phone with folks and keep them connected.
all right, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get us started back with the PowerPoint, Trudy, so that you can get rolling with what you wanted to present today. Here we go. Okay, so everyone welcome Trudy from Big Y. And we've got someone else joining us. Martha is coming. And Trudy, if you'll just let me know when you would like to advance the slide, then we'll be all set. And Martha, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay, here we go. So Trudy from Big Y, she's going to talk to us about preserving culture and identity. And we invited her because she did one of the breakouts during the honors event, and we got all this great feedback about it. So for myself, just from selfish reasons, I wanted to see it. But I thought, gosh, if that many people loved it, then probably there'd be other people who would enjoy it. So thank you, Trudy, for being willing to come and share with us today.
Okay. Well, good morning. A little bit about myself. My name's Trudy Crowe, and I'm from the Big Y community, which is located on the Koala boundary in Cherokee, North Carolina. We are a tribal Native American community. So when we talk about preserving culture and identity, ours is fairly simple, pretty straightforward. But when I talk about preserving culture, identity in other communities, if we want to go ahead and start the PowerPoint, we can. First, I ask people to define your community, because a community can have many different cultures in one community. Ours is primary, like I said, ours is easy to define. We have, and when I thought about it, I know we're a Native American community, but also you want to look, when I say think outside the box, your community can be made up of multiple cultures. It can be a single family culture. It can be an elderly population culture. It can be a farming culture. You know, we need to think about the different cultures, and we tend to think about ethnicity when we think about culture, but it can be all those different things I just mentioned. So for EBCI, go ahead. We want to first communicate as a community. I don't know how you guys do about reaching out to other people. This is a copy of our Facebook page. We started this, I think, about 4 years ago now. I've been active in the community about 8 years ago, and this actually was one of the big things that got people logging in and knowing what was going on, when our meetings were. We post everything. We also don't just post about our community. We post about things that are going on with the school systems. We reach out if there's anything, the hospital has announcements, especially during this time of COVID. This has been a really, really good tool for us when there's been school closings, when they've had COVID vaccine clinics. So we've used that to promote kind of healthy stuff in our community. Okay, go ahead. And that picture you see there, that was actually why they call our community Big Y. We have a forks, and so if you can see it, this was taken by a little drone. You can see the Y, and so that's why our name comes from, Big Y. Okay, go ahead. Okay, when you think about your communities, what are your values? We always encourage people taking pride in our community. Whenever we do anything on our Big Y page, a lot of times we just feature individuals. If somebody's graduated, if one of our elderly ladies, she runs in races and marathons all the time, we are always posting her pictures. And we always put a little hashtag, Big Y Proud. We're proud of you. We want them to know that they're being recognized and we're proud of what they do. The other thing, how we take pride, we do some things with our youth. We have a good grades incentive. Like I said, we define family as part of our culture that we want to keep alive in Big Y. So we reach out from the youngest to the oldest. So for our every quarter, we have a good grades incentive where we actually, for any student that has 3 A's on one reporting period, they get a $10 movie pass from us. And they get to come in and get their picture made. And that's a big thing for them. They love it. And their moms call them and say, are you still doing that? And yes, we are. You know, we had to kind of do it differently during COVID. I'll talk about some adjustments we had to make. We had to take a screenshot of their report card and send it in, and we mailed them a nice little card with the gift card in it. And so that was excitement for them opening up the card. So make sure that your community name's getting out there and that you're showing this is what we represent and this is how we take pride in our community. Okay, go ahead. One of the things that we do every year in Cherokee, if you've ever been to Cherokee in the fall, it's our biggest event, is that we have a fall festival. And part of that is a big parade. So on this particular year, we did a float, and if you can see the background, it talks about how does our and I'm gonna use a word for you, Gadoogie and Skadoogie. In Cherokee, Skadoogie means community and Gadoogie means helping each other. So we use that as our theme, as our what we did ours on. We had all our community members, of course, worked on this float. They painted it. We represent all the 7 communities since we're a tribal community. And then we took pictures of how we represent Gadoogie. The young lady on the left, she was raising money to go to a New York. She got accepted into a school up there, and she was going up there. So our community reached out and raised funds for her. And so we presented her with a check to go up there. The other thing is we recognize our youth always. We had football players, so we recognize them. And then we pictured our community garden, and I'll have some more slides on that because we have had a community garden now for 4 years, and people use it and they like it. So if you'll go ahead. This was representation of our community building. And Gadoogie, when we say Gadoogie, like I said, it's helping others. We actually had our little free library on one side, and we do have a free food pantry here. So on the other side, we had our free food pantry, and then that was built by our free labor. So that was our representation of our community to us. And then we had our youth, and then we had our elders, and we just enjoyed the parade and let them know what our community was doing. That's our little logo for our community. Right now, we're in the process of having a flag design competition. And so we've outreached for that, and it ends in January. So we're hoping to get a little flag developed. Go ahead. So one of the big things about when you're working in your community and you're defining your culture is generate ideas. Get as many ideas from as many people as you can. Every time we have a meeting, we ask for ideas. We ask if anybody has any projects they're interested in. We actually go visit some of the elders in our community and say, what did you do 30 years ago? Our community has been established, I think, for 54 years, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere along that way, just by when we participated in WNCC communities. So we go back and look at some of the old things and say, what did they do 50 years ago? Is it something we can do now? And we try to incorporate those ideas. One of the things that we're getting ready to do, if COVID permits us to, is have a box supper. And that was something that I remember going to when I was young, to the community bingos, because they would raise money for the children for their Christmas. And so we're bringing some of that back, and we've had such a good feedback on that. When we announced that we were having a box supper and bingos, we've had nothing but good feedback about it. So, and that was old. It's not been done around here in probably 30 years. Okay, go ahead. So some of the things, since we're traditional, we always try to incorporate our tribal things. We do traditional foods, and I just put some things on the screen here. We do a whole lot more, but when I was doing this, there was so much, I was trying to compact it. We actually incorporate some of our fundraising for our community with our traditional foods. Ramps, we have beans and hominy, lye dumplings. That's not something you can go to McDonald's and get or to your local restaurant. And actually, when we had this ramp dinner, we sold out within like 45 minutes. We had cooked the rainbow trout. We had our free labor, and I'll talk more about our free labor guys in a minute, but that was just an example. How can we incorporate our traditional foods into our community and do fundraising? The next picture was a bean bread class we had. And it was, you want to go back just one?
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood
The
you.
bean bread class in Cherokee, what we discovered was there was a lot of people bean bread's one of our traditional foods, and we had a lot of people that didn't know how to make it. In my family, my granny is the bean bread maker, and she's 90. So whenever we'd have a dinner, we wouldn't ever even think about cooking it. We'd say, well, Granny brings the bean bread. And I think that's the way it is in a lot of communities. So things die out without us intentionally letting them die out. We just don't have anybody that's learning to do that. So we've had a bean bread class now. We've had a chestnut bread class. We've had, I don't know if you know what gritted bread is. We've had gritted bread class. We teach other young women how to cook some traditional foods. Okay, next one. And the other part of that is learning how to gather your foods. One of our big grains that we get is sochan. It's a Cherokee from way back. besides ramps, everybody in Western North Carolina knows what a ramp is, but we have what we call wild salad. And so we actually have a trip every spring where we go and we learn the greens. And last year we had 8 people. So, you know, that's 8 more people that learned what the greens were, some of our traditional foods. And I actually did a class with one of our adult classes, and it had 16 in it. And I took them all to get Sochan, and they're all in their 30s. And I was very surprised that a lot of them didn't know what Sochan looked like or how to gather it. They've ate it, but they didn't know how to go gather it. So gathering is part of our traditional foods. So go ahead. We also we have a lot of traditional crafts. And for our women, we have a women's sewing group. And one of the things that our community did, and we got a small grant for it, is we purchased 4 sewing machines for the community. And then from that, when we started advertising, we had probably 4 more sewing machines donated. So the community funded us $50 a month for supplies. And then a lot of people will say, what do you need? And they'll go buy the fabric. You know, we use our resources, whatever resources you have, use them. So this was a ribbon skirt making. Ribbon skirts are a way that we show honor when we wear our ribbon skirts. And so we had a ribbon skirt making class. Go ahead and change to the next one. And this is one of our elders, and our colors are yellow and green, and she's the one that's a runner. And so everything that she's in this picture is what we've had a class on. So she made her own ribbon skirt after that. Since then, the tribal departments have called upon us, and we have taught about 6 ribbon skirt making classes to the court systems, some ladies from the hospital, some ladies that are doing that adult class. They have come, and we've probably taught 60 people now how to make ribbon skirts. And so it's something, if you ever come to Cherokee and it's a special day, or there's a funeral, or even I wear mine to church. Like I said, ribbon skirts are meant to honor. So you'll see a lot more ribbon skirts now because we have a lot more people that know how to make them. Okay, go ahead next. Pottery making. It's one of our traditional crafts. This lady featured here is Tara McCoy. She has a lot of pottery in the museum. And when I say use your resources, reach out. If you know somebody does something that you're interested in, ask them. She came and done that class for us for free. Our community just had to buy the clay. We got the clay from the museum, and when they found out that we were doing it for our community as a class, they just charged us their costs. So I think we got 100 pounds of clay for $26. And so she brought her tools, we brought our time, and we all sat together for it. We got on Friday evening and then Saturday, and then she took it and fired it for us. So if you'll go on to the next one. There was 4 that didn't make it to the pictures, but this was the ones that when we were getting ready to fire it, you get busy doing stuff and sometimes you forget to take pictures, but we all managed to go out and pose up a picture with our pots. And this was with the traditional quilt making. We didn't have it. We actually used the paddles. You can't see up real close, but we paddled our designs on there, and we made this the way that they would have made it forever since Cherokees have been making pottery. So go ahead to the next one. We also done some star quilts. We had a good turnout. When we have these classes, sometimes it's interesting because you have first-time sewers. So we're basically trying to teach them how to do a straight stitch on a machine and do some little kind of moderately complex stuff. But when I said about resources, the lady that taught this, she's a Native American from another tribe, but her husband works with our newsletter, our local newspaper. And again, like I said, all you have to do is ask sometime. We reached out to her, and she was more than happy to come teach us this class. Now, this was a week-long class, but this shows one of the finished star quilts that we done. So we were all really happy to do that. Okay, next page. And this young man that you see right here, he was our instructor. And for this class, we did ask people to bring their own supplies. A lot of times we try to provide them, but it's okay to ask if they want to do it. You know, they will. Sometimes if they can't get the supplies, then we'll charge a nominal fee. Like for this one, it would have been $25 because leather's not cheap. And so we were able to get the leather, but he works at the hospital. And again, we asked him, We knew he made moccasins and sold them for different people, and this was a 2-day class, 2 full days. We did have this on the weekend. This is him showing us how to do that, and then this is all of the finished products. So that was some of the participants that we had. I think we had about 3 that didn't show up for the picture there, but we all learned how to make moccasins from there. Okay, next page. And when I say what are your resources, first go to anybody you know in your community. 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yes if you ask them to do something. And it's not, what we found is that it honors them. For them to be able to pass something on, they want to do that. We also ask people from our community colleges. We have a lot of educational, we had some stuff, of course, on opioids for our youth. We use the local DARE programs. We go to the police department. They have funds for that. So, you know, it's not a big expense on your communities when you reach out. Cooperative extension offices, their websites. We do several canning classes in the summer. We had one of their ladies from Cooperative Extension come up and talk about safety in canning. And then we actually like made the kraut and stuff up here. So we do hands-on, and we found out for minimal costs, most of the time, we have great resources. So reach out to different things that are in your local area for your resources. Okay, go ahead. And then last but not least, when you're trying to do something, is make a plan and do it. You know, you can meet forever. You can have 5 meetings and then not do it, or you can get together and make a plan. What do we need for this? How are we going to advertise it? How many slots are we going to have? That's one of the things that since COVID, we've actually had to limit slots. We used to make it open, and we open it for anybody, not just our Big Y community. When we put something out there, sometimes we do have to limit ages, like when we did the Star Quilt. You know, before we'd done a stocking class and we had some little kids participate, but the Star Quilt was a little bit more, so we had to say adults only. But, you know, kind of make your plan and then just set a date. Set a date, and on this day we're going to do it. And that's worked out probably the best for us more than anything. Go ahead. Okay, and when I say set a date and do it, this was an example of an ad that we had on our most recent thing that we did. In our Cherokee culture, part of our heritage is we're a matriarchal society. And so we did this before COVID, and we were going good and strong, and then COVID hit and it shut everything down. So we were restarting it. What we find out is that we're moms, we're homemakers, we also work. We didn't have a lot of support. And so when we first started this 2 years ago, we grew right away into 16 women. We had some people come talk about some subjects that people were interested in. It kind of started out as a resolution class, but then we wanted to do more. Like we had one lady come teach us all about keto, you know, keto diets. That was a big fad then. So she brought some things that she knew. We also have some mental health people come, you know, how can we take care of ourselves as people in the home, as women in the home? And so for part of our culture, that was a big thing for us. The other thing, because that's the last of my PowerPoint, I was going to show you, most importantly, one of the things that we look at that we value is our language. Right now in Cherokee, we have 174 speakers. That's fluent speakers. And every time one of them dies, they do a notification for it. So we have our Gadua school, which is a immersion school that teaches Cherokee language. We're also getting out in the communities and teaching it. We're hosting classes. What can we do as a community to encourage other people, our own Native people, to get in? And I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to hold this up. This is from our scrapbook, and it was our Cherokee language community class. We had a lady that's one of our beloved women. Her name's Driver. She also teaches and helps develop curriculum. So whenever we do things in our scrapbook, we try to incorporate the language. Like in our community, we have the language in a bathroom. We have different words in our community building. And so this was that graduated. So we have now since then had 4 classes up here. We had one that was a week long. What did it mean for us? It meant that we prepared a lunch every day. Some of the ladies in our community prepared lunches. When we did this class, the second class, we had about 10 every time. They done it for free. They wanted to continue the language. And so our cost was that we provided lunch for everybody. So, you know, you can do a lot of courses. And when I say we recognize people in our community, we have a Remember the Removal Riders, which is where they follow the trail.
Hey, Trudy.
Uh-huh.
Somehow when you're holding up the sign, it's blocking your microphone and we can't hear you.
Let me do it this way. Now,
Oh,
can you
that's
hear me?
better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we recognize people, we recognize cultural events. Remember the Removal Riders is a big cultural event. There's actually some people go to Oklahoma and meet them. So we had 2 people from our own community ride, and we had several go out there and meet them, and they get to tour the historic sites of the Trail of Tears. So it's a big history lesson for them. So that's one of the ways. And I got, and a big thing that we like to preserve is the Gadoogie part, which is our free labor. We have an active free labor. They dig graves. They clear land off for people. We bust wood. Right now, this winter, we've delivered 91 loads of wood. And our community raised funds through our fundraising, and we bought them a wood splitter. And so people know now, like, what can I do? You know, if you don't have another resource, you're about to panic if you don't have any heat. So they reach out. And so that's something that we do to help others. So part of Gadoogie, like I said, is lifting others and helping others. So I'm going to just show you some pictures. We actually now have a wood yard. So our free labor, we actually have our own free labor account in our community club, and we do fundraising for them. One of the big things that we do, like I told you, we're a very remote community, is that we do fundraising, and we also, we have them their own account. We went through a grant and we purchased a tractor. And I didn't put that on there. And they use that tractor to plow gardens. So during COVID, we done 108 gardens, and that was all over the Qualla boundary. And like I said, they also do weed eat for elderly. So we stay active by our volunteers, and so that's how you keep your culture identity, is that get you a good core squad of volunteers. We're very small. We're the smallest community in Cherokee, but we have anywhere around 18 very dedicated core volunteers. Anytime we have an event, we usually pick up anywhere from 6 to 10. Like at our bingos, we have about 10 or 15 that usually just show up for bingos. For some reason, volunteers like to do certain things, and we found that out. And we highly encourage them. You know, if you only want to come help us do the bingos, or you want to come help us do the veterans breakfast, you're more than welcome. And so every month when we have a meeting, we ask for any project ideas. We fund them through our fundraising. And so that's how we encourage maintaining your culture and identity. And I don't know about our time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Trudy. It's amazing how much work you guys are able to do with such a small core group, 18 people. That's incredible.
And the communication's good. So like I mentioned, we have a newsletter, and we actually take that door to door. We put it in people's mailboxes. We bought our own printer and stuff, and so we print it out, and a lot of people subscribe to our Facebook. Right now we're hitting about 800 followers, and so they follow us, not even in Big Y. Big Y doesn't have that many people, but like I said, where we post other events that's related to Cherokee, related to the schools, we have people all over Cherokee that follow it. The newsletter, and then do activities. You got to stay active and keep your name out there. We do something every month. Every month, like in December, we did a cookie exchange for our women like to get together and bake, and we found out that it doesn't cost anything. We put tablecloths out, we decorate, and we have people bring 4 dozen cookies, and we all walk around the table. And this year we had 16 people participate in it. We also did a Grinch movie. We used our DARE program resources, and they gave us a big blow up screen. We bought the video from the community, and we provided popcorn and snacks. And so we had a youth event. So in just, that easy to have a youth event or an adult event. So, and
That
stay
is
active.
so great. I love how you highlight that you can just make it super simple and yet get a decent turnout. And it sounds
Yep.
like part of the key to your success is that you have a rhythm. You have something every month and you're constantly getting your name out there. So you're on everybody's radar. So I'm wondering if there's, at this point, if there's any questions anyone has for Trudy about how her group has made this so successful. Anybody have a question? And looks like almost all of you are on mute. So if you do have a question, please unmute yourself.
And if you go back to that Big Y Facebook page, because there was one created years ago that's not active, but ours, we post something too at least 3 or 4 times a week, so that we're constantly getting out there with our post, so that we have shares, people go in on and shares on our post. And if you see that symbol that's on that Big Y, that second on the PowerPoint, the second video, that's our actual page. And like I said, the Facebook has been a great communication tool, especially during this time of COVID. We've had several drive-through events.
And I guess that the paper newsletter is how you reach the people who are not connected with the internet. Some of the more traditional people that aren't hardwired in.
For our elderly population, a lot of them don't know about Facebook, or they don't have access to it. Again, Wi-Fi's not the greatest here. We do have it ran to our community, but a lot of the houses don't have access. So we just staple it together and put it in their mailbox, and they've been liking it. We've got several calls about wood from that. They said, hey, I was reading the newsletter and it said if I needed this, or a tree fell in my driveway, is there anybody that can come help me? And they've reached out to us through that newsletter now.
And how often do you do the newsletter?
We were shooting for once a month, and we have
That's
our December
aggressive.
one out, and we had our November and our December one. And like November, we highlighted what we had done the previous month. We had a Thanksgiving dinner and a Thanksgiving bingo, so we put pictures of it. And then also we encourage them to go to our Facebook, and we always list contact numbers for our officers. So that's how they know how to reach out to us.
And do you use the postal service for getting it out?
No, we have not been.
And
actually,
the reason I ask is we just started doing a newsletter, and the Postal Service actually offers it's not a free service. It's 20 cents per piece of paper. And you don't have to have addresses. You print it and give it to them, and you tell them what mail carrier routes you want them to deliver to, and they'll do it for you. And so, because we were running into the problem of, well, how do we get it out there, and who's going to go to every mailbox? And we said, well, who knows every mailbox? Well, the Postal Service does. And so that's one thing that they offer is pretty cheap. If you think 20 cents is not very expensive for a newsletter, it's also for businesses and advertisement, those sort of things. So
we actually
think about if you ever have a problem with getting it out.
We actually have, like I said, we have our mixed combination. So we have several retired people. So that's one of the ways they've stepped up, and it gives them a chance to visit too. So when they're handing it out, they get to visit a little bit. So that helps us, because the ones that are working and we don't have as much time as them, but every time we have a monthly meeting, they'll say, hey, I'm going to take about 20 of these, and they know where they're going to go give them at. And we're small enough that it's not like a big issue right now.
Yes, that's important. Good. Sounds like you're doing great. Every month is a big undertaking.
Yeah, great question, Alice. And thanks for sharing that resource about the post office. I had never heard of that. Does anyone else have a question for Trudy, or just something you want to share?
Maybe just a comment and a question too, is that I can't imagine having 18 volunteers. We don't have 18 volunteers. I want to know how we can get there. So I'm looking forward to that Zoom Or actually, that's the live event, right? Ooh, are they still gonna do that with the COVID jump?
Yeah, that will be to be determined. Since they're not till February, we still got a little time to kind of see what unfolds.
Yeah.
But the hope is to have it in person. Yeah.
So
And
Trudy,
actually-
how did you get 18 volunteers?
I was just gonna say, most of our volunteers came from our events, like when we first started, our community was probably, we had a community building, but it wasn't very active. And so we started first with a big 4th of July event. That was our very first thing. We bought the fireworks. We had a barbecue. We did a little duck race. And then they came back for the Christmas stuff. We have October, we have pumpkin carving. This year we had a drive-through trunk or treat because of course we had to adjust for COVID. But a lot of the people that are now coming first came to one of our events. And then they liked it, and they're like one of our trunk or treat ladies, she actually came to do trunk or treat. And then she was in here looking at some of the scrapbooks, and now we just started this past, she started doing an Indigenous book club, and it's for young girls, her daughter's age, but it's actually from like 8 to 12. And so she's been leading that, and they purchase a book a month for those students, and they get together and talk about the book, and they have tea. So, and she started out just by coming to one of our events. So by coming to the event, they really don't know what community does a lot of times. I was speaking to the other lady, and I said, one of the other things that we want to keep alive is just the sense of community. We have community buildings, but a lot of people don't understand what a community does or what a community is. So by keeping that alive, and we've had people say, God, your community does so much. Even through our bingos, we've had people come up to our bingos, and they come back to some other events through that. So just keep reaching out, you'll get them.
Anyone else have questions before we wrap up? Or comment?
I have another sort of a philosophical question about your free labor, or where you're helping people in the community, say get wood or something like that. We've thought about several things, and then we always think, ooh, but are we undercutting those people who are making money by selling wood or whatever? How do you balance that out?
On ours is actually just because, like I said, we have core values that are just Cherokee, and Gadookie has been around forever. We actually one day a year in the springtime, we pick a household for Cherokee Day of Caring, and the whole tribal community, not even just Big Y, but we kind of shut down. They let workers go work. And if it's somebody that their yard's been neglected, the last time we selected one, it was a widow, and her yard was so growed up you couldn't even see her entrance to her house. She was just going in and out the back door. And so we actually found a shed beside her house that used to be a little garden shed. We cleared everything out for her, but that's our Gadoogie. They do have some programs that sell wood, and pretty much if people are able to get their wood, they still buy from them. But it's just something that we offer because a lot of them can't afford to buy their wood. Some of them, they don't have a place to cut their own wood. And so like just the garden things. I'm sure there's people that go around plowing gardens for money, but we wanted to encourage gardening. And so that was just something we do.
So do you try to choose who you go to according to the fact that they probably wouldn't have been able to afford to pay anybody anyway?
Yeah, and usually the ones that are reaching out to us, they've kind of explored all their options. And like I said, we know in our community and even other community, we know everybody. So like if we knew somebody was just trying to take exact advantage of us, they're going to say, sorry, we're not able, we helped you 2 weeks ago, and we can't help you right now.
Mm-hmm.
We actually, and you hate to say it, but we had using that as example, we had delivered wood to somebody, and 4 days later they asked for some more wood, and they had sold the wood. They actually had sold the wood themselves to somebody else. And we, our community club chairman and the one that heads free labor, they're like, well, you know, this is what happened and we're not able to help you again for a while because of that. So we have to set boundaries sometimes and limits.
I'm sure it helps that you know your people.
Yeah.
So do
Wow.
you proactively go out and say, we're looking to repair someone's yard, or maybe, you know, volunteer to put in and dig a new septic or things along those? Is there like an application process, or do you just hear that there's a needy person and then you go and talk to them? Or
We actually, for the Day of Caring, because it's usually an all-day event and we have a lot of resources that are put into that, we have nominations for that. So we put that on the Facebook page that we are taking nominations for Cherokee Day of Caring. We've built handicap ramps, we've built porches, we built wood sheds for people, but we have community families nominate. They'll say, hey, my aunt lives by herself and she can't get up and down the stairs. And from those nominations, we choose one family. Now, the lady that we helped 2 years ago, our free labor still goes down there and maintains her yard. Because when I say you couldn't see the house, you couldn't see the house. And it was actually a beautiful little yard and shed and everything in there that had just overgrown, and she didn't know what to do because she didn't have help.
I was just going to share their Facebook page real quick, just because they do a fantastic job giving lots and lots of posts. And it's very, you know, picture heavy, which keeps people very engaged, you know, and they're not just talking about their own events, but here, Cherokee Central Schools, you know, just everything going on. So now they're kind of seen as, hey, this place knows what's going on. We're going to go here to find out what's going on in our community, because they post about all sorts of stuff. So that was another kind of point that I think deserves to be underlined, is, you know, having a really good active Facebook page or web presence of some kind is really key. And especially for recruiting people that are, you know, like 50 and under, because they're used to going online to look for things. So I just thought I'd share that real quick.
Do you have somebody, one particular person that just takes care of the Facebook page?
We actually have 3 people. We have myself, the secretary, and actually she's just graduated college. She's about 24. And then one of my daughters is also one of the Facebook things. And so between the 3 of us, we pretty well are able to keep everything covered. And like the school board person, she reaches out and she sends us stuff to our email that she wants included on the Facebook page. All of our activities, they design the flyers for us. We post it, but like I said, that has been contributed greatly. And also we recognize people. Whenever we have an event, we always say thank you. We tell how the event went. We have a volunteer appreciation. We helped with a bigger Cherokee project. It was called the Longman Project, where we did river cleanups. And for anybody that volunteered, we purchased Big Y t-shirts so that they all got a free t-shirt. And then we didn't get to this year because of COVID, but the year before we catered a prime rib dinner, and we did personal invitations to the ones that were pretty, you know, regular volunteers to come eat and bring their family. And so, and they like that recognition. They like knowing that somebody appreciates what they do.
That is so key. Volunteer recognition is one of the things that keeps people coming back for sure. And I'm glad that, Ruth, you mentioned that we are going to do a regional workshop on volunteer recruitment and retention. And I know that's something that all the communities basically are asking for. So please sign up for that if you haven't already. I resent an email today with a link for that registration. And also, if you haven't already, I'm going to drop this in the chat again. Here is a link to feedback on the honors program, not just the event, but the program as a whole. And we are definitely reading all of that and taking it to heart. So please, if you haven't already, it's anonymous. You don't have to put your name on it. Just let us know, you know, how we can improve, because we want to keep getting better and better to serve you. But with that, we're almost at time. I think we have time for a very quick just checkout. First of all, let's just thank Trudy. Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
thank you.
Yay.
Thank you.
And let's just do a quick maybe 1 or 2 word checkout for how you're feeling after hearing Trudy's awesome presentation. And maybe something about how you're feeling as far as how it might impact you personally or your community. And for me, I'm going to kick us off by just saying inspired and grateful.
I agree. I now have a longer list of things that I want to do. Thank you, Trudy, for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was inspirational for me, very inspirational.
I truly enjoyed it. I'm Betty.
Thank you, Betty.
Admiration. I have great admiration for you.
And I'll have a word for Jens. Perseverance. You'll get there. When we started our first meeting, we had like 6 people. And now our meetings run anywhere from 20 to 30, depending on what's going on. But like I said, you build and you grow, and just stay in there, hang in there.
Nancy, did you want to give us a checkout?
Pardon?
Did you want to share a couple words for your checkout of how you're feeling?
I said it was inspirational for me. It was just, they're doing so much, and it inspires us to go back now to ours and increase the work that we're doing.
Great. Thank you. Martha, did you have a chance to say something? You'll need to unmute.
It was great. I've got some ideas, and
Are those good?
a bit small group, but she says perseverance, that's what we can keep up with.
Thank you. Linda, did you have a chance already?
Very encouraging.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. We really appreciate you coming, and this was recorded, so we'll put it up on the website if anyone ever wants to watch it again. And thank you again, Trudy, for your time, your passion, and for all the great work you're doing out at Big Y. We appreciate you sharing your best practices.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody. Have a
Trudy.
great day.
She was good. Okay, so how do